What's going on, guys? I'm back with another react video, and we got a Nick Crowley video today. So make sure you guys grab your snacks, get ready, get comfy, and make sure if you guys do like this video, make sure you guys do give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you guys want to stick around, and leave down in the comments below if you guys want me to react to any kinds of videos or play a game you guys want me to play. Because I do have a Twitch channel if you guys would like to tune into the streams or whatever. I have that linked in my channel bio, as well as a Discord channel I do have linked in my channel bio as well. I'm just gonna get right into this video, won't keep you guys waiting. Let's go. That's scary.
Missing persons report. 18-year-old Jesse Giovanni Nimajapol was reported as missing to the Denison Police Department. He was last seen on July 14, 2017, in the city of Denison, Iowa, and his disappearance is considered involuntary. This report was created on New Year's Day 2020 on the website Namus, a platform designed to help resolve missing, unidentified, and unclaimed persons cases nationwide, with the hope being that someone out there, anyone, might know what happened to this man. It wasn't the first mention of Jesse's case in the online world. Despite being an incredibly obscure mystery, several sources had brought attention to his disappearance in the past, one of which being the official state website of Iowa. Though each had gone without resolution, and they all shared a distinct similarity, they were almost entirely void of context. There was essentially no information about who Jesse was and what led up to his disappearance, aside from the mere mention that it was believed to have been involuntary, meaning law enforcement assumes he was kidnapped or perhaps even killed. It's a missing persons case that admittedly comes across as hardly noteworthy, as the lack of information leaves us with seemingly no story to tell. But this is only on the surface. As years after this report was made, a Redditor began to peel back the layers of Jesse's case, which eventually led them to his various social media accounts, and in turn, a slew of depraved and unexplainable content that morphed this case from a seemingly standard disappearance into one of the strangest internet mysteries in recent memory. This is the disturbing story of Jesse Nimajapol, and the internet rabbit hole he left behind.
Make sure y'all have your snacks. Might want to get under a blanket. You get scared easily.
We will return after these messages.
There's always that one user, the one who shares an intriguing mystery only to disappear mid-thread, leaving you with countless unanswered questions, which makes it feel like you can now never solve this mystery. Weirdly, I used to feel that way about healthcare. Like I was just guessing my way through this. Although Jesse Nimajapol's disappearance garnered very little public attention, there were a select few who wanted to know more, as despite there being a glaring lack of context within these reports, there were several things that stood out as unusual. Within the nicknames and known aliases section, there were 3 names listed: Juan Carlos Samay Nimaja, Daryl Jamal Brown, and Reynaldo Alterio Colon, which was a surprisingly high number of aliases for someone just 18 years old. And on the topic of his age, something about this felt off. He appeared older than 18,
yeah, he was
with his
18?
face looking like that of a full-grown adult rather than a teenager.
Bro,
This combination of strange factors inspired Reddit user Tawny Frogmouth to dig deeper, leading to the discovery that despite there being very little information about Jesse in the public reporting, there were other traces of him across the internet, with Jesse himself being fairly active across social media, including having his own channel right here on YouTube.
Bro, I think I have that same hoverboard, no joke. I
The
miss
account
those
was simply
days.
named Jesse Nimajapol and showed the 18-year-old performing various
We need
songs
to bring
and dances
hoverboards
in his
back.
native language of Spanish. These uploads were met with hardly any viewership, as Jesse certainly wasn't a well-known performer, despite dubbing himself as the voice of Central America in his descriptions, which is where Jesse was likely born before immigrating to the US and settling down to go to school or work in Denison, Iowa, which actually isn't as uncommon as it may seem thanks to their large-scale meat processing industry. And while posting videos of yourself singing and dancing is nothing out of the ordinary for a teenager, there were some peculiar details that stood out when looking through Jesse's content, with the first being his appearance. Much like his missing persons photo, he doesn't really look like a teenager, as on the rare occasion where he shows his full face, you can tell he looks quite old for his age. Though it's difficult to say for sure, the quality of these videos is extremely poor, and he's almost always wearing large, brightly colored sunglasses that cover much of his face. But these sunglasses and the outfits he wore only drew more skepticism, as despite looking older, he dresses in a way that almost makes it seem like he's trying to appear younger, like this is what an older person might think a teen would wear. But we'll come back to this later, as this was far from the strangest detail found on the channel. It's easy to
Maybe he
overlook
just
at
likes wearing that
first,
stuff.
but once you notice it, it changes the entire perspective of this case. As when you look at the date in which these videos were uploaded, every single one of them was posted in 2018, the year after Jesse was last seen. It makes no sense and poses two questions. Are we sure this account actually belongs to Jesse? Well, despite having the same name and appearing like the same person, his videos also shared crudely edited slideshows that displayed pictures while he sang. And in one of these images, we see Jesse dressed in the same exact outfit in the same exact location as his missing persons photo. This is certainly him, or at least videos of him, prompting the second major question. Could this be someone using older clips of Jesse? It seems possible at first, but these videos were all posted as if they were from Jesse's perspective, who again had no semblance of a career in entertainment. And it's not like they were being shared to help promote search efforts for him, as there's not a single mention of him being missing throughout any of the uploads. And the further we go down this rabbit hole, the more unlikely this whole train of thought becomes, which you'll soon start to realize, leaving us with one bizarre truth, that Jesse was the one posting these videos, and he was doing so while being a missing man, who is presumed to have been kidnapped or killed. In fact, even to this day, his listing remains active, yet here he is dancing and singing like nothing ever happened. It's clear that cracks were beginning to form, and nothing about this case was what it seemed. And this wasn't even the final discovery to come from Jesse's YouTube channel,
Wait,
with the
he's almost
next
been missing
taking
for
us
10
down a new
years.
and far more unsettling path. As mentioned previously, Jesse would often include slideshows edited over his songs, with these photographs sometimes depicting himself, but more often than not, they actually showed other people, and specifically, other young boys.
Maybe him when he was a kid? Or just random kids?
His channel is filled with images of children who appear to be preteens or even younger, with these accounting for the vast majority of the pictures he shared, including his very own profile photo, which shows a child sitting on the steps of a swimming pool. Strangely, none of these children look anything like Jesse, and they clearly aren't him at a younger age, and also he's not featured in any of them, with it appearing highly unlikely that these are his own children. Instead, they appear to have been taken from various children's social media pages, while some seem to be more candid, perhaps even being taken by Jesse himself, who included them in these videos for unknown reasons, almost as if he was infatuated by them. And the further you follow his online trail, the more unsettling this all becomes. Along with his YouTube channel, Jesse also appeared to have been somewhat active on Twitter, where he created an account back in April of 2018, with all of his posts coming nearly a full year after he was last seen in Denison, Iowa. Here, Jesse shares another video of him singing, along with a selfie which gives us a better look at his face, a face that again seems to show an adult. And interestingly, on this account, Jesse does admit that his age isn't actually 18, though this admission only makes things more unusual. I am a boy model and dancer-singer. I am 13 years old. This was written in his bio, and taken even further in an image he shared which depicted a young boy, with Jesse writing, "My new photo. I am handsome." For whatever reason, after his disappearance, Jesse was online pretending to be a child, and digging a bit deeper, this strange behavior was nothing new. As mentioned earlier, Jesse was a man with—
Wait, what if it's like a crazy plot twist and it's like he really is that 13-year-old kid, like that's why he's got all these like kid photos and he's pretending to be, or he's like using, no, that wouldn't make sense if he's like pretending to be older. I don't
many
know.
aliases,
I don't know. This is
with
weird.
3 being included in his missing persons report.
Feel free to
But
leave
this was
anything
only the
down in the
tip of the
comments below on
iceberg,
what you think
as online he
is
went by a
going
slew
on.
of different names, which would be later uncovered, as in virtually all of them, he included his last name, Nimajapol. It turns out this name is incredibly uncommon, as when searched online, most of the results lead to pages connected to Jesse, which operated before his disappearance,
Bro had a
with one of
SoundCloud?
the most common first names he used being Adexi. Shortly before the time he went missing, Jesse started an account on LinkedIn under that same alias, which included the same last name and middle name as those initial reports. And on that page, he wrote under his job title, "I am a child, my parents support me," while in the education section, he claimed to be a 4th grader, studying at an elementary school. And on this account, he featured just one post, which again showed a random child that he again claimed to be. This behavior is prevalent all throughout Jesse's online trail, as account after account shows evidence of him posing as a child, either by outright stating to be, or by using children in his profile pictures, as well as throughout his videos. It's not hard to see why this is shaping into a massive red flag, but it all leads to perhaps the most important question of all. Why? Well, though his motivations are never outright stated, there are some clear themes throughout his content that point towards one obvious yet sinister intention. Jesse's content is unusual, this we already know, but there's a whole other side to it that we have yet to discuss, as many of Jesse's accounts feature overtly sexual posts. These will often come in the form of strange videos and images showing Jesse doing erotic dances and poses, including very intentionally showing off his groin area, as well as his own nude images with his hand covering his genitals. His content is straight up pornographic in nature, which is highly disturbing as it's often placed aside images of children, and on accounts where Jesse is claiming to be a child.
This was already bad,
It's
but
all
now
a
it's
recipe
just...
for disaster, and is extremely reminiscent to other cases we've covered in the past involving internet predators, and we haven't even got to Jesse's most damning account of all. Back in 2017, Jesse operated yet another YouTube channel under his Adexi alias, and its profile image is enough to indicate just how disturbed this page would be, as it shows a boy wearing only a small swimsuit and nothing else, which is a reoccurring theme on this page, as Jesse again shows images of little boys, only this time most of them are shirtless, with many dressed only in a swimsuit or their underwear, and in overtly sexual positions. Along with this, Jesse has images of himself mixed in, where he appears to be completely naked, dressed only in his boyish sunglasses. Now on his Jesse Nimajapol channel, I mentioned that he almost appeared to be trying to look younger, and when I was sifting through these videos, I realized that he dressed extremely similarly to many of the children he shows in his photos, like he's trying to copy their look, and pass himself off as one of these kids, despite him obviously being much older. But he takes this even further, as his images are edited to remove any wrinkles or blemishes from his face to give him a more youthful appearance. And he didn't stop there, as he would also show off pictures of various toys, wear shirts made for little kids, and even wore his own backpack. He also has some images that he printed out himself, and propped up next to stuffed animals, Legos, and various other children's toys, which for some reason is just so particularly haunting to me, and indicates a clear interest or obsession with these children.
Yeah, this guy's
Bizarre
got a
doesn't
weird
even begin to describe
fetish,
it,
obsession,
and missing
whatever
persons
you wanna
case
call it.
aside, Jesse Nimajapol was pretending to be a child online, and he had been doing it for years. And given that his content is blatantly sexual, it's clear that this is all some sort of fetish, a fetish that involves children, as not only does he share these suggestive images of kids, along with nude photos of himself, but he's also added various edits to some of the photographs that show off his obvious lust for these kids. As some appear to have been edited to add hearts and various phrases about love, with one even featuring the phrase, "I love you." There's also this strange pattern in this content, one that indicates what may be a portion of Jesse's fetish, as Jesse shares many images of himself with his mouth open and contorted in various unusual positions, while he also has several photos that are cropped to show only images of the children's lips. It's haunting,
Bro.
with the worst example being an image that shows Jesse's own lips alongside someone else. Both of their faces are cropped out, so it's impossible to say who this is, but they look fairly young.
This is disgusting.
This poses a chilling theory. Was Jesse pretending to be a child in order to get closer to other children and potentially groom them? And could this be one of his victims? It's definitely a realistic possibility just based on his content, but the scariest part is that this likely wasn't just being done in the online world. Despite his report saying so, Jesse clearly seems to be older than 18, and given that he's gone by so many different fake names in the past, and he has a history of lying about his age and pretending to be younger, it's very likely that Jesse Nimajapol never even existed, and was instead just a persona created in order for him to pose as a child. And interestingly, if you look under his playlist on the Adexi account, you can find a saved video which features 500 of the most common boy names, which he likely used to help create his aliases. And not only was the name Jesse featured within the video, but it's literally shown on the thumbnail. Jesse Nimajapol was almost certainly never real. This was all just some sort of manufactured identity, or perhaps one that was even stolen. But it worked so well that somehow the actual government believed it. Which makes me wonder, was Jesse living a full life as a fake child in Denison, Iowa? Was he interacting with other kids, and perhaps even going to school? I mean, he was clearly known in the community well enough to be reported missing.
He can't
and
pass.
Isn't it quite the
to
coincidence that he just so happened to vanish at the age of 18? Maybe he ran away because under that alias he was no longer a child, and he did so to start a new life elsewhere where he could further pose as a kid, and engage in whatever disturbed behavior he was engaging in, which he clearly did online at least, as just a few months later he was posing as a child on Twitter. Jesse's life in Iowa is one aspect of this mystery that is still unsolved, and the not knowing terrifies me the most. Who knows what he might have been doing there, and who knows just how embedded in that community he actually was. Suspicious doesn't even begin to describe it. But if this isn't Jesse, then who is this man? Well, as it turns out, despite being considered missing by law enforcement, they might have already unknowingly found him.
Please tell me this guy got put away.
On June 12, 2018, police would enter a home in Round Rock, Texas, where inside they would find and arrest its owner, Pedro Nimajapol, a man who they had caught sharing CP to Instagram.
Oh my.
It was the same unique last name, and that same adult face, with Pedro even being part of Jesse's aliases in the past. And all of Jesse's aforementioned accounts just so happened to go quiet right before his arrest, meaning in all likelihood, 18-year-old Jesse Nimajapol was actually Pedro Nimajapol, a 38-year-old man.
Wow.
And all the while he was missing and posting these
38?
disturbed videos, he was also collecting and trading CP behind the scenes.
This guy's
And his operation
disgusting.
was massive. When police searched Pedro's home, they would find devices containing 604 images of CP, as well as 37 videos, most of which showing boys between the ages of 6 to 10 years old. The same exact demographic as the children pictured on Jesse's channel, which brings up an unsettling theory about the true purpose of the content he posted. Perhaps Jesse, or Pedro, which we'll now be referring to him as, was showing these images in his videos as a way of promoting the CP he collected, to essentially advertise the content he had without raising too much suspicion, with it being possible that the boys pictured in his videos were the same ones that he had illicit material of, and maybe the positions he showed himself in were indicators of what might have been shown in that material. And when someone wanted to obtain the media, the trades would then be funneled through his Instagram, where he would eventually be caught, as he shared many screenshots from that very same Instagram account within his videos, which clearly displayed his username. It's also possible that Jesse himself was pretending to be a child on these accounts in order to obtain this media directly from other children. It's a horrific possibility, but one that hasn't fully been proven, as to this day we don't have a definitive answer on why he was making these videos, and why he was posing as a minor online. But I think it's fair to say that it was likely to more easily obtain CP and to trick kids into sending it, as well as to collect and share it with other predators. And it brings me back to the question, what was Pedro doing in Iowa? How close did he actually get to the children there? But again, it's something that we just don't know. In fact, we haven't even received an official update on Jesse's missing persons case, which is bizarrely still active on NamUs to this day, and was only recently removed from the Iowa State website, as it seems that for years they never put the pieces together that Jesse was actually Pedro. So to this day, the people that Pedro knew in Iowa...
You're telling me they saw this guy get arrested, looked at the photo, and did not realize that it was the same guy who had the same last name that was doing all this? Or did I, like, hear that wrong?
might still believe that he was Jesse, and might still believe that he's missing. There's so much gray area
Are
with
we
this
for
missing
real?
persons case, but recently we were given some...
Bro, this case is making me mad. Just for the fact how disgusting this guy is, and the government, or the cops, whatever, whoever was running that, whoever arrested, blah, 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 could not realize that that's the same guy. Are we for real?
potential clarification by a fellow YouTuber, the Internet Investigator, who did a fantastic deep dive into this topic. And in her video, she explains that she got into contact with an anonymous source who had spoken with the Denison police about Jesse's case. And it was explained that officers were actually in the midst of investigating Jesse, or Pedro, when he disappeared, as they suspected that he had been collecting CP. And they supposedly went so far as to even interview him, before having to let him walk due to a lack of evidence, to which almost immediately after, he disappeared, leaving behind literally everything he owned. Despite the timeline being suspicious, according to the source, Jesse had left in such an abrupt manner that the police officers genuinely believed that he had been killed, perhaps by someone who found out about his online perversions, and they never realized that the man they were looking for technically never even existed. We know now that this clearly isn't the case. In reality, Jesse likely took off for Texas, knowing law enforcement was on his trail, assumed a new identity there, and continued making these unexplained videos and continued trading CP. And while some of this explanation still leaves me with questions, this seems to be the only clarification we're going to get in regards to the missing persons report. But the most important thing was that Jesse was behind bars, with his charges leaving him eligible for up to 10 years in prison, though his official sentencing was never included in any of the articles. Despite this, it felt as though Pedro's predatory ways were now finally over, at least for the indefinite future, as even upon his release, he was set to be a registered sex offender for life, and would most likely have his internet closely monitored. But strangely, this isn't where our story ends.
Oh no. What now, bro?
The clips began appearing on a YouTube channel called Puxito Chingon, and showed what was clearly Pedro dancing and singing as if nothing had ever happened. And to make matters more disturbing, the videos began appearing in April of 2020, not even 2 full years after his arrest. I couldn't even believe it at first, and immediately I assumed that this was just someone reusing his old content.
Yeah.
But when I dug a bit deeper into his sentencing, I realized that the timeline sadly checks out. In the end, Pedro Nimajapol was only ever convicted of 2 counts of CP possession, thanks to him taking a guilty plea deal, and ultimately he only served 254 days in prison, and was released the following year on February 20th, 2019.
Are we for real?
Now all of this did carry with it the requirement that he register as a sex offender for life, but this only really matters when you're in the United States, and when you look at his captions, he claims to be in Guatemala, which is where it's believed he was from initially, and where he appears to have returned to, likely as a result of being deported. And now that he's there, there's essentially nothing that law enforcement here in the United States can do to keep him in check,
Bro,
which he's taken full advantage of.
I'm about to crash
As in those same captions where he claims to be in Guatemala, he also claims to be a child.
I'm about to
And
crash
continues to dress like one. On this Puxito channel, he continued to refer to himself as Jesse and continued to show more revealing images of children, with these ones being even more perverse. And he also continues sharing revealing images of himself, with some outright showing him completely naked and exposed, showing off his uncensored genitals. Whatever system of CP trading or child grooming he was doing on his YouTube channels before, he's clearly still doing it, and he's only gotten more brazen. But as disheartening as this all is, there's something that makes this channel far more disturbing than the others, as throughout his accounts he shared countless images of random young boys. But on this page, it's clear he has a favorite.
I can't. I'm.
His name is Abel, and he appears to be a normal child around the age of 8 to 12. And throughout the Puxito channel, Pedro shares his images more so than seemingly anyone else. But if you compare Abel to all of the other kids featured on his channels, Abel is the only one in which Pedro actually clarifies their connection. As according to Pedro, he and Abel are in a relationship.
Oh, are ya?
Jesse,
Oh, are
Namaja,
ya?
and Abel, united forever in a relationship.
Like, why are we not keeping this guy in jail? Why did he, bro? I don't care what kind of deal he had, bro. We're letting this guy go after 200 and whatever days. Bro, I can't. I'm too mad right now. I can't.
This
I'm about to
sentence is
crash out.
spelled out over and over again in one of Pedro's videos, while in the background, numerous images of the child are shown, including many in which Pedro has photoshopped their faces together with more hearts and loving messages, with one even showing both of them together, shirtless. This, to me, confirms my worst fears about Pedro's online activity. Grooming is definitely a part of it. In fact, he even shares a screenshot from an Instagram account that he created after his arrest, which shows a story of his face along with text saying, "Jesse Namaja, I am 16 years old." Putting the pieces together, it seems that Jesse used this Instagram account to lie about his age and get into contact with this child, to which, according to his own words, the two then formed a quote-unquote relationship. It's a horrifying revelation, and one that I tried to explore further by looking into who this child actually was, but I found absolutely nothing. The name Abel is almost certainly an alias given to him by Pedro, as I could find no trace of this child anywhere online, with one exception. As when I searched his name here on YouTube, I made a highly disturbing discovery. On a channel simply named Alberto, there are multiple playlists titled Abel's full name, or at least the one that Pedro gave him, and in them, there are hundreds of videos of Abel. These uploads almost always show Abel dancing, often in an extremely sexually charged manner, with these uploads featuring disturbing titles like, "I like you so much," and "What would you do if I told you my fantasies about you?" As well as captions like, "Check this out if what you want is tension." And of these videos, the worst examples have been put into their own separate playlist, which is titled, "For Fans of the Sensual." I can't necessarily prove it, but I'm convinced that this is the work of Pedro, and that this is all the result of his grooming, based on his blatant obsession and the use of this child's apparent alias. And it's very possible that these videos aren't just a result of his grooming, but this could very well be a glimpse into Pedro's CP trade. I mean, the way that the clips are sectioned off into that playlist, and the way that the captions are worded, it really sounds like he's promoting this, and promoting this as illicit material. And it's obvious that there was an outside interest, as these playlists have a combined 10,000 views. I just have a horrible feeling about this, and the most frustrating part to me is that following his arrest, Pedro was labeled as a low risk to reoffend, and the justice system let him go with a slap on the wrist, and because of this he was essentially allowed to immediately go back to doing what he was doing before. And it's very possible that even to this day, Pedro is continuing this behavior. However, it's hard to say for sure, as immediately after posting this video in which he announced he and Abel's relationship, Pedro would once again disappear.
Good, bro. Stay gone.
Since then, there has been essentially no trace of him on the internet, with all of his accounts going silent, and no new ones being discovered. Which isn't too surprising, as while he was posting these videos on the Puxito channel, his story began gaining traction, thanks to the aforementioned Reddit post, as well as others made on Facebook. People were starting to catch on to what he was doing, and in turn, he went completely dark. Some believe that he's hiding out in Guatemala living off the grid, while others believe that he's still making these videos and grooming children, and he's just gotten better at covering his tracks. I've even heard it theorized that Pedro might actually be dead, as his trail truly is that cold. Though I was able to find one final trace of Pedro that contradicts this to some extent. According to court documents, Pedro had actually been arrested yet again around 2023, as despite being deported years prior, it appears as though he had somehow managed to re-enter the country before being subsequently caught, arrested, and sentenced for illegal re-entry following removal. However, these charges appear to have been dropped after a legal appeal made by Pedro and his lawyer. And what happened to Pedro from here is a complete mystery, taking us right back to the question that started it all. Where is this man? And given his knack for disappearing without a trace, and his ability to don new aliases without detection, the truth is that he could be anywhere right now, hiding among us. And I have no doubt that wherever he goes, his online perversions will follow.
I promise you, let me catch this guy walking around, bro.
This is truly one of the most convoluted and strangest cases that I've ever come across, and I feel like there's so much about it that we still don't know or at least fully understand. Hopefully more of this information will come out in the future to clear up some of the confusion, and if it does, I'll be sure to keep you guys updated.
Oh my god, I can't. This truly, I'm lost for words. I hope I hope he passed away, or bro, this guy gets put in jail for life, bro. I'm speechless. Like, this is crazy. The fact that he got released after 200 and something days. I don't care what deal you took. Like, be for real, bro. I can't. Whoever was that judge or involved in that case at all, they need to be fired. They need to be fired immediately. He should not have been free at all. And a low risk. Be for real. Be for real. I can't. I'm gonna end this one here before I freaking break my monitor because of this guy. Make sure you guys like the video if you guys did like it. Hit that subscribe button if you guys would like to stick around, and leave down in the comments below anything you feel about this video, or what you want me to react to next, or whatever games you want me to play, anything like that. Or just even say hi in the comments. I'm at loss for words after this video, but I'm gonna end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.